Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to discuss 5 keys to having an impactful candidate experience. And this really encompasses all of the ways that our clients that we work with every day, how they're working to transform the way that they're attracting, hiring, and engaging top talent. And I also have with me presenting today my colleague, Angela Che. Angela is the Director of Strategic Insights on our team, and she is focused specifically on analyzing and visualizing our clients' data across different platforms, and we use that information to help identify critical trends, data trends, key insights, ways to be able to optimize our clients' campaigns. So Angela will actually be taking us through a case study here in a bit to help bring the concepts to life that we're about to cover today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. In today's presentation, we're really going to focus on the elements of how you engage quality talent and ways that you can leverage machine learning to make your life easier, but to also really drive engagement from your target audience, from your candidates, drive the conversions that you need, and ways to be able to use data to power all of your decision making with the different tactics that you employ. We're also going to want to hear from you. Holly had mentioned at the beginning to register to be able to participate in the polls if you haven't yet. But we will have a couple of poll questions that are going to be coming up in a couple of minutes. And I also want to point out that we'll be discussing some different clients as a way to illustrate some of these concepts. So we'll be talking about a Fortune 500 hospitality company, a Fortune 25 retail client, as well as a national healthcare client as our examples and in our case studies today. But really want this whole audience to know that these same principles that we're talking about can really be applied to any industry and any company of all sizes. They can be scaled up and down and applied to whatever industry you are a part of. So let's go ahead and really kind of set the stage. By and large, we know that your job is getting harder, and creating an impactful candidate experience can really seem like a daunting task. It's something that you hear constantly about the expectations of the candidate audience and how high they are, and that you need to be able to create an exceptional candidate experience to be able to stand apart from your competition. And as I said, it can be really daunting, and we understand that. A recent ERE article that many of you probably read really pointed out what I'm sure most of you are feeling today. 62% of recruiters are saying that their job is more difficult today than it was a year ago, and it's 67% say that it's more difficult than it was 5 years ago. 59% of recruiters are saying that it's more difficult to get quality candidates than it was a year ago. And 62% are saying that it was more difficult than it was 5 years ago. So I'm sure you guys are really kind of feeling this as well. And part of what we want to focus on today in these 5 keys are ways to be able to really improve your candidate experience in easy, automated ways that are still very high touch, and also make your job as recruiters, as hiring managers, as talent acquisition leaders, make your jobs easier. So we're going to talk through, let's take our Fortune 500 hospitality client that I mentioned earlier. As kind of an example of some of the challenges that I'm sure most of you are facing today. So I'm going to go through kind of some of the challenges that we had with this client and what they were facing, and some of what you may be experiencing as well. So first and foremost, in terms of being able to create an impactful candidate experience, they had to overcome perceptions or misperceptions about who they were as a company and about their employer brand. They were in a situation where their target audience actually didn't quite understand their brand, who they were as a company. And in this case, the perception, even though they're a hospitality company that many of you I'm sure have heard of, they were thought of specifically as kind of only resorts, only the hospitality proper. But in truth, they have many other critical needs and in many other job categories: sales, marketing, technology, lots of business categories in addition to just kind of traditional hospitality jobs. And they were having a very hard time recruiting anything outside of the traditional hospitality jobs. I'm sure many of you face that every day. There isn't a business out there today that isn't looking for technology talent in one way or another. And that's true whether or not you're a you're in the retail industry, or you're a hospital, or you're actually a tech company. So overcoming those perceptions and really being able to inform the candidate audience about the brand is one of the main challenges this client was experiencing in terms of being able to create an impactful candidate experience. They were also facing challenges around being able to put their best foot forward around their career website. So they had a career website that was large. It was a really big site. It had many pages. It was really heavy with content, and these pages and that content needed to be maintained and updated on a regular basis. But when you poured into their analytics, again, kind of using data to help make decisions, what was found is that most of those pages and all of that content that was in there was rarely visited, and it was rarely consumed by the audience that was there because they didn't really visit the pages. And so while they had some content to be able to tell their story and explain who they were, nobody was really seeing it. The other challenge that they experienced is that the majority of the career site visitors, so 56% of the career site visitors, were coming in through a phone or from their tablet or their iPad. And they didn't have a site that was optimized for what I call their mobile majority. So they certainly, right off the bat, weren't being able to put their best foot forward with having an impactful candidate experience for those users that were coming in, the majority of users that were coming in from a phone or an iPad. And as I'm sure everybody here can feel, they're a global company, and they needed to attract the purple squirrels, right? The needles in a haystack that are out there. So a bilingual real estate agent in a small town, in a really tough location, very much kind of a purple squirrel, and having a way to be able to easily find those candidates, target those candidates, be able to tell the story, and get in front of them was a main challenge that they faced, and I'm sure you guys can relate. And also any kind of communications that were happening between the recruiters and the candidates, the hiring managers and the candidates, it was all very manual. So we knew, and the client knew, that they needed to be able to tell a better story around their culture. We knew that they had to improve their site. We had to get the right content in front of the right audience at the right time. And we really needed to be able to help them automate marketing touch points wherever possible in order to be able to create an impactful candidate experience. And we also don't want to forget that those automated touch points not only help that candidate experience, but it also helps the over-task recruiter experience as well. So I'm sure many of you can relate, and addressing these pain points and ways to be able to create an impactful candidate experience is everything that we're going to give you insight in today. Now, I just want to set the stage a little bit more in terms of really thinking through this target audience and why we're in this moment of digital transformation and how that's impacting talent acquisition. Consumer expectations, as everybody knows, because we're all consumers, right? Our expectations have changed. We really expect at this point kind of legendary service. We are focused on there being a seamless digital and mobile experience across every touch point. We've become very impatient around not having a very seamless and kind of engaging experience. It is what we expect. We want simple, we want engaging, and what's going to become a big focus of what we're talking about today, we want personalized. We want to make sure that when we are out there, when we spend time to go research products or, look at an investment we're going to make. I mean, even when we're deciding what movie we're going to go see, we want to make sure that the information that's being served up to us, that it's relevant and it's personalized and it's learning as we go, right? So the idea of if you are on an Amazon, if you like this product, then you might also like this one, or based upon your purchase history in the past, we think you would be interested in these 3 products. we have that expectation that sites that we're visiting, that it's learning and it's personalizing our experience as we go. And so those same expectations have become even more significant when we look at the talent acquisition lifecycle, right? We're all consumers. Your target audience, your candidates are consumers, and they expect their job search and their application experience to be just as simple and just as personalized as what we get when we're shopping online. Your candidates today are extremely connected, and they are in control, basically, of where and when and how they engage with your employer brand. And they're looking for the same kind of experience that they get in the consumer world. So just like I was describing around, sites learning based upon our search history and what we do when we're researching products, that applies to talent acquisition as well. As a candidate begins their journey to apply, when they interact with you through media and they come into your careers website, every single interaction with your brand is an opportunity to engage that candidate, but it's also an opportunity to get data that you can then use to make every subsequent interaction even more meaningful for that candidate. And that can mean everything from educating candidates about what it's like to be a part of your company, your culture, to be able to show them, other products you might like, right? And showing them jobs that are a fit for their interests and their skill sets based upon the information that you may already know about them from their search history. If you happen to have a CRM, if you've got profile data on those candidates, using that data and that information to give them as personalized and as seamless an experience just as if they were shopping online. But we know that most organizations are still struggling with this today. And as I said, I know that it can be really daunting. So let's just poll the audience and see. We'd love to hear from you ways that you are working to create an impactful candidate experience. And for our first poll, can you let us know, are you using career site personalization at all? Really that process that I just described of where you're using data and information to be able to give personalized content to your site users. So we'll go ahead and respond. Let us know if you're using career site personalization. And then, Holly, do you want to show us? Yep, let's see. Well, we can see the results changing, flipping in real time. So we're kind of 50-50 right now, which means that some of these concepts, if you've already got some level of personalization on your site, some of these concepts might be either a review for you, or maybe they'll give you some additional ideas and ways that you can use personalization. I think the case study at the end will really help you in terms of building your business case to continue to invest in personalization and the results that investment can make. And then for the 56% of you that have not approached using personalization in order to be able to impact your candidate experience, hopefully we're going to give you some ideas and ways to be able to approach that today that will be a little less daunting. So, all right, we ended up around 40-60, so that's pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So diving right in, these are our top 5 keys to an impactful candidate experience. Number 1, articulate and activate a strong, authentic employer brand. That is the most important piece. You have to have a story to tell. And then 2, get your rich, relevant content that is your story about you as a company, your employer brand. You have to make sure that you get that content in front of the right audiences in the places where they already are. You definitely don't want to have a site where you have a ton of content, but then nobody is seeing it. The key is really ensuring that you have rich, relevant content and you're getting that in front of candidates where it's going to be able to make an impact and where it's relevant, which leads us to number 3, which is career site personalization. That personalizing somebody's experience and learning what information is going to be relevant to them by tracking, the way that they're searching, what they're doing on your site, any information that you might have about them in the form of a profile, using that information to inform the kind of content that you're putting in front of somebody so you're getting the most relevant information in front of them is really the way to be able to keep your candidates engaged. And number four, using analytics to power your decisions, and also leveraging, if you do have a CRM, leveraging integrations that are possible today between a CRM and an ATS so that you always know the status of somebody that you're speaking to and where they are in the application process, the interview process, whether or not they are going to be hired, whether or not they were a runner-up or a silver medalist for a job. Being able to use that data and integrating those systems will help you make your decision making even more powerful. And then also 5, the recruiter experience. This is a 5th, and I'm sure a key that is near and dear to most of you on the lines today. I can't emphasize enough, and we'll go through the importance of incorporating automation to be able to enhance your experience as a recruiter or a hiring manager and using your time most efficiently. So we'll go through number 1, which is a thoughtfully articulated employer brand. But you not only need to have a thoughtfully crafted and well-articulated brand, you also have to ensure that that brand gets activated. So having a well-articulated employer brand message, it's critical now more than ever before in order for you to be competitive in whatever industry you're in, hospitality, retail, manufacturing, financial services, you name it. In order to be competitive, you have to be able to articulate your story as a company. And as we talked about earlier, candidates approach their job search much like consumers will, and they'll do research into your company, just like they would do research into a product before they make a major purchase. And when they research your company, credibility and authenticity of the story that they find and the information that they get are really the keys. So being able to clearly articulate what it's like to work in your organization, looking not only at the great aspects of your company, but also not shying away from areas that might need some work or areas that are aspirational. And of course, not making claims that you can't deliver on, being really authentic to who you are. And when you think about this first key and you have to develop an employer brand or maybe improve on what you already have, you have to build it from the inside out. And so you would start with discovery of what your current employee experience is, because that really is what defines your brand. And you could figure that out through things like interviews across different employee groups. You want to look to be able to reveal insights about what it's really like to work for you. Why do your employees or your associates, why do they love working for you? What are some of the difficulties of working for you and the challenges? Why might others thrive there as well? What does it take to be productive? What makes people happy? And then what are also the challenges? You're truly looking to be able to capture your true company culture, your essence as a company, and be able to find ways to showcase your employees and your real life stories and scenarios. Nobody is going to tell your brand story better than your employees. So you want to hear from them, and you want to get that authentic point of view from them so that you can then demonstrate to job seekers and to your candidate audience what it's really like to work for you as a company, and you can hopefully get a better fit out of that. But as I said, you can't just have a great story and a brand, but you also have to activate it. So you have to articulate it, but then you actually have to activate it. And what we mean by that is communicate it consistently across all of your candidate touch points, which takes us to key number 2, which is all about rich, relevant content. So this is the way that once you have your brand, you activate it through telling your story. And it's critical that you're telling your story and you're delivering the information at the right moments to your candidates when they're in the consideration phase. You want to make sure that you're giving them the content that's going to help them make a better career decision. And this isn't as hard as you might think, but it is specifically what's going to make you stand apart from the competition. You can use much of the information that you heard from employees when you were developing your brand in those interviews, in the focus groups, as you're talking to your associates, your team members every day. You want to use that information, that kind of their point of view, as a way to be able to create relevant content for your different audiences. experiences. So, for example, one of our large national healthcare clients, they utilize a blog as part of their career site, where in addition to kind of the regular information that's up there, they're also posting company news, some of those interviews, kind of employee highlights, the stories of why the employees are working for the company, the kind of work that they do, why they stay, challenging things about their day, but most, really showcasing the amazing work that individuals at the company do every single day. And they use that information not just to have a blog post, but they also then distribute that content and they make sure to get it in front of their candidates at the right time. They distribute that content from blog posts in social media. They retarget it to relevant candidates that have visited their career website. And Angela's going to talk about this quite a bit. They use that content that they develop out of the blog post to be able to personalize a candidate experience by integrating it in a contextually relevant way back into their career site. So as I was describing around like searching when you're purchasing something and you're shopping online, you can do that with your site today as well, that you can track the types of jobs that a candidate is searching for on your site. And this is what our healthcare client does. They track the types of searches that a candidate is performing on their site. So let's say the candidate was searching nursing jobs, for example. They then integrate their nursing related blog posts and content and that information back into the homepage when that user returns. So we already know what the person has already given us information. We know they're interested in nursing jobs in this scenario. And so instead of having them have to go find and kind of use the navigation to go find information that's going to help them make a decision about whether or not they would be a fit as a nurse, what the culture's like, what the day-to-day life is like, instead of them having to go find that information, we're able to dynamically bring it right into the homepage when that person comes back and put it right in front of them, because we're tracking previous job search behavior. So we're not forcing a candidate to have to go find the information on their own. So in sum, when you think about creating rich, relevant content, it might not be as hard as you think. And you might be able to use some of what you've already produced or what you already gathered in building your brand, or really just every day talking to your employees and talking to your team members and gathering those stories, and then being able to bring those stories into your career site, into social media, and amplify it as much as you can. So let's go ahead and take another poll here. So our second poll is, we want to know if you are leveraging candidate data to personalize touch points, right? So this is everything that I've been talking about in terms of using the behavior of somebody on your site, for example, or maybe information that you already have about somebody in your CRM in a candidate profile, using that information to inform what somebody is then seeing on your site, or maybe email marketing that they might get. So are you leveraging candidate data to personalize touch points in any way? Go ahead and respond. So it looks like for this one that while some of you do have personalization built into your site, it doesn't sound like the majority of the audience is doing anything too advanced yet with really tracking user behavior and then using the information that we get out of user behavior to be able to drive that candidate experience. So it looks like about 15%, 20% of you are, and about 80% aren't. Well, that's great. So then let's go ahead and we'll talk about how you can really deliver a personalized candidate experience on your website with our third key. So most talent acquisition processes have been built right on infrastructure and tools that have been designed with HR and compliance in mind, right? By and large, they tend to not be mobile, personalized candidate experiences out of the box. So if you really think about the career site as the central hub for your employer brand messaging, right, as the home for where you're going to tell a story, you want to think about designing for what we call mobile first, where, have the assumption that most people are going to interact with you and be on your site on their mobile phones, and design an experience that is mobile first, where your employer brand story can be told. it by going mobile first, it really forces you to kind of keep the site simple and intuitive, and it lets you really focus on the story and the kind of the conversion funnel, which is a fancy way of saying the steps that we want somebody to take to be able to learn about your organization, learn about where they're going to be a fit, and then hopefully apply. So you can also use the content that you created again in the first two keys, right, to specifically personalize the experience on the site. So one of the ways that you can do this, and we'll give you an example, one of the ways that you could do this would be through your job descriptions. So most candidates today interact with you through a job description, right? They might see a posting out on Indeed and they click to apply and they come into your site, and their brand experience with you, the employer brand story that they're seeing, is basically your job description. And so it's the information that lives in your ATS. And that can often be the only exposure that somebody has to your employer brand story, is that job description. And so this is a really great area to be able to personalize someone's experience, where just at even a job description level, you can enhance your job descriptions to bring in additional relevant information and content. So yes, you bring in the information from the ATS, but you can then also bring in additional information personalized and relevant to that user. So for example, we have a client of ours, they're a major Fortune 25 retailer, and we implemented enhanced job descriptions on their site to be able to make every single job description essentially its own like personalized landing page for the user. And so we incorporated, knowing the job that somebody was on, we incorporated photography and videos of different associates that were in roles that matched whatever job category that person was on, or whatever job category that job description was a part of. We also then integrated other jobs you might be interested in based upon, again, the job category, but also being able to auto-detect location. And so by automatically knowing what location somebody is in, we were able to then, right within a job description, populate other jobs that somebody might be a fit for based upon where those jobs were, as well as the job category. We brought in infographic style benefits information. We brought in local maps because we knew where that person was and we knew where the job was, and they could calculate and look at kind of their commuting time, their driving directions. We brought in culture information, just using the job description and enhancing the job description experience with all of that personalized, relevant information. That actually increased their apply attempts, right? So the number of times people clicked on apply to actually go complete an application, it increased their apply attempts by more than 20%. So that's a real tangible increase in terms of the impact that you can have just by personalizing the experience in something like your job descriptions. There are other ways that you can do this too. And so I'll use some fancier terms like machine learning, but you can leverage real-time data to be able to transform and learn from every touch point so that you can continue to nurture your audience. So I just talked about being able to detect location, right? You can leverage location and user data on your site to personalize the experience in real time by dynamically serving them. Here are jobs near you. Here are culture videos from employees that happen to be, that live in a similar area to where you're from. That if you know that somebody is coming to the site from LA and you happen to have photos and videos of employees that are in your LA location, you can make it very subtly more relevant by showing them that kind of information because you've auto-detected their location. You can, again, track a user's search and browser behavior. So if you know that they have done a specific job search or they've visited specific areas of your site, then you can deliver more personalized information to them because you're learning from it. When they come back to your site, if you know that they searched for a nursing job and they're in LA and they also visited your military page, well, when they come back to your site, you actually don't have to have them search for anything. Right then you could deliver, here are open nursing jobs in LA. Here's information about our LA locations and our culture. And oh, by the way, we're a very military-friendly organization, and here's why. And so your site becomes very smart by using this kind of data to be able to inform every touch point moving forward. And if you have a CRM, you can go even further. When a user returns to your site, if they've joined your talent community and you have a candidate profile on that user, then when the person comes back, then you can make job recommendations and again give them personalized content based upon the preferences and the information that you've got in their profile that's tied back to your CRM's back end. So the opportunities around personalizing an experience, you can really start to see how that aligns to the analogy of shopping, and how we can learn from people's previous search history and what they've been doing as a way to be able to make their experience much more relevant and much more personalized. Speaking of talent community, if you do have a talent community, one of the things that you can do is that once a candidate has subscribed, if you're doing any kind of automated email marketing, you can also make sure that that email marketing that is going to them is highly personalized and relevant with kind of a predetermined set of emails. And you might have heard about this. It's something called drip campaigns. But an easy way to think about it is it's really just sequencing. That you know when somebody who, and I'll just use again the concept of nurse, if somebody who is a nurse joins your talent community, that you have a predetermined set of, we'll say, 3 to 4 automated emails that are going to go out as a way to be able to nurture that candidate. So they might not be ready to apply, but you can engage them and really keep the conversation going in a very automated way until they're ready to make the decision to apply. You can use your CRM to have really intelligent campaigns that are automated and continue to have somebody learn about your organization, learn about your culture, and really just stay in their head until they are ready to convert and to apply. And what's great is that with most of the technology that's out there today, again, as the audience is interacting, even with an email, not just on your website, even with an email, as an audience is interacting, these platforms can learn. Like they learn where somebody clicks, they learn about the maybe the articles that somebody clicked on, they can learn from the photos that they viewed, and that informs the system more about their interests, and you can continue to deliver even more and more relevant information to hopefully get somebody to convert. So now let's talk about analytics, right? So this is our fourth key. Once you have built a really compelling employer brand and you have developed content and you're using that content and you're using data to be able to inform that candidate experience that they're having, now you really want to be able to harness the power of analytics. You want to be able to use data to make decisions about what content and what information is impacting the candidate experience. So you'll want to analyze things like how long are people spending on your site? What kind of content are they engaging with? Is it photos? Is it videos? Is it long form content? What is the theme? What is the topic that people seem to care about? See whether or not any kind of personalization that you're adding into your job descriptions, is that impacting your conversion rates? Are more people clicking to apply, at a greater rate than they were prior to spending any or investing in enhancing your job descriptions? And again, if you have a CRM as well as an ATS and you can integrate those two, integrating the data between those two systems are going to then enable you to be able to do things like view application status in your CRM so that you know whether someone has just joined your talent community or whether or not they've actually applied. You don't want to keep sending emails to somebody saying, please apply, if they've actually already applied. And so by having an integration between those two systems, then again, you can use that data and you can use that information and harness the power of analytics to make sure that what you're putting out there is even more relevant, and even see whether or not it's working. You can see whether or not the content that you thought was going to resonate, whether or not it's actually resonating. And then you're able to stay nimble and to change and make sure that you're always aligning to your candidates and what they seem to find interesting, and what they're interacting with and what they're engaging with. You can also do things by having, if you have an integration between your CRM and ATS and you know somebody's application status, you can even do things like encourage the people who haven't applied yet, right, to have a drip campaign where you can send them, here's more and more information about our organization, stay top of mind. If you know that somebody is an applicant, you can send them different communications and different touch points. You can send them interview tips. You could have a blog post that is that has interview tips in it, that you know if somebody is an applicant, right, that maybe they're prepping for an interview. And so when they even come back to your site, you could say, hi, John, you're scheduled for your interview at this time. As you're prepping, here are our top tips for you to be able to review before you come in to see us. The power of analytics and data are kind of endless, but you really want to make sure that you're looking at your funnel and you're understanding what's making an impact, where are people coming from, where are they engaging, what are they finding relevant, and then what is then leading people to convert, and use that information to stay nimble and change up the experience as you go. So the last key, and hopefully probably nearest and dearest to our webinar attendees, is really the last key is the recruiter experience, right? The recruiter experience is equally as important, and it ultimately impacts the candidate experience. So we talked about this at the start, recruiters, hiring managers, everybody is under a lot of pressure, facing many pain points, right? Sourcing from small talent pools, having to find the purple squirrels, having limited access to applicants that are skilled in, the types of jobs that you might need from a tech perspective, or the bilingual real estate agents that we had talked about before. You really need to look for ways to be able to be more efficient, how to hire faster, how to close your time to fill gap. And most likely, your current process tends to go something like this, right? You go into your ATS or your CRM and you do a search and you look for people to contact. And then you select them manually. Maybe you set up some media if you didn't have enough people, or you do a manual email campaign, or you start calling. You pour through as many of the responses. You reach out directly to as many people as you can and kind of wait and see what happens next and whether or not you're going to be able to have enough candidates to be able to meet your needs. But it's also entirely possible that as you've done all of that, you don't really have a really good sense of kind of who's already applied. And because this is all done manually, and you're not able to see kind of who's applied, and you're probably not even getting around to kind of saying thank you to candidates that have already submitted an application, but even going a step further and really being able to give them the kind of information that's going to help them prepare for an interview or understand if they're a fit, etc. So technology today is really making the recruiter experience better. You hear a lot about artificial intelligence and AI, but AI-driven technology is doing wonders for recruiters in terms of being able to really let recruiters kind of focus on the top candidates, meaning that you're able to let technology kind of learn and see your candidates that are coming in. They've got predictive data models built in there, and they're able to kind of help you be more successful and more efficient in terms of being able to say, these are the candidates that are most likely a fit, and kind of learning from that over time to help you cull the list of responses and resumes that you're going through. Automation as well is something that is really impacting the recruiter experience. So when I had kind of talked through the scenario of having to manually then set up media and manually send out email campaigns and reaching out to candidates, automation such as CRM enabled drip campaigns that we were talking about earlier, they really enable recruiters to be able to then deliver personalized touch points to candidates, but at scale. And that saves you time, and it really makes you more efficient. And lastly, all of the AI-driven media tools that are out there today, there are tools that you don't have to do a lot of the thinking around picking and choosing the media every time in order to be able to attract your audience. There are tools today that take a lot of that out of your hands, where there are budgeting tools. All of your media spend is kind of in one place, and the AI that's built into a lot of the media tools that are out there, it can make the decisions and understand, here's the fit, here's the kind of skills that somebody has or needs to have, and will automatically go out there and find those impressions, find those clicks at the cheapest amount or the most efficient amount possible. And it just takes all of that ongoing decision making off of your plate. So when we look at the 5 keys, the recruiter experience and finding ways to be able to make your life easier and more efficient is the 5th most important key to designing an impactful candidate experience, because your experience impacts the candidates as well. So those are our 5, but to help them come to life and really kind of focused on the impact of personalization and using data to be able to inform a candidate's experience, I wanted Angela to be able to join me and go through a couple of case studies for the purposes of the webinar. So Angela, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure. So for this webinar, we conducted 2 case studies. One is a case study of behaviors of returning visitors to the career site. The second one is of behaviors of visitors who experienced personalized homepages. In other words, personalized content. We're going to go into detail later about how these 2 case studies relate to each other. But before we even go into that, I did want to kind of talk about the conditions that were set up for these 2 case studies. So for the first case study, which was about the returning visitors, this was based on data from 16 different clients who met the following conditions. The first is these clients invested in media buys through Symphony Talent. The second is we know that they have retargeting campaigns on their media plan. And last but not least, they have the career website hosted by Symphony Talent. Basically, what this means is that we have a very good understanding of not only their media plan, but also we know that they're actively retargeting their visitors who came to the career website. And because we host our website as well, we can kind of connect the dots between the media data and the career website traffic data. That should be a number 2. My apologies. But the second case study, the conditions were that, so this case study was based on data from 5 different clients. And the main condition for that was that they had personalized homepages set up on their career website, and Symphony Talent hosts their website. They may be media clients and they may not be media clients, but the main condition is that they had personalized content set up for returning visitors. Just to go over a little bit about what personalized homepage means, and Shannon touched a little bit about this in the previous slides, but personalized homepage basically means that depending on the behavior of the visitor on the website, the next time this visitor comes to the site, we will serve and customize the content and experience for him or her that may be most relevant for that candidate or potential candidate, because we already have captured information of what kind of roles this visitor may be interested in, right? So with that, if we go to the next slide, I do want to say that with years of experience of doing media planning and hosting career sites, we know that returning visitors and retargeted candidates have a much higher engagement rate on the career site. And just looking at the results that for the first case study, which was data based on 16 clients, on average, across these 16 clients, 21% of the visitors were returning visitors to the career site. And if you look at the bar charts on the right side, it's not a surprise actually to see that the pink bar chart, which represents visits from returning visitors, had a higher time duration on the site. So they spent more time on the site. But not only that, if you look at the bottom bar chart, their apply attempt rate was much higher as well. So again, I don't think this result itself is very surprising. It just proves our hypothesis that returning visitors have a much higher engagement rate than new visitors. If you go to the next slide, it's the result of the data based on 5 clients who do personalized homepage. So approximately 17% on average across all 5 clients had visits that entered through one of the personalized homepages. So the pink of all of these charts represent visits that started from a personalized homepage, and the gray portion represents visits that started from a default homepage. And when I say default homepage, we're talking about just a generic homepage that does not have any targeted information or personalized content on it. Now, if you look at the bar charts on the right, again, these are the results of the behaviors, right? The visits that started from a personalized homepage spent more time on the site, and the apply attempt rate was much higher. Now, again, I think this is kind of stating the obvious, right? Nothing that surprising. We're, again, just proving the hypothesis that people who went through personalized content have a much higher engagement rate. Now, what becomes really interesting is, if we go to the next slide, we put the apply attempt rate side by side for these two case studies, right? So if you look at the left side, this is the results of the apply attempts of returning versus new visitors. The bar chart on the left side is the apply attempt rate for visits that started from a personalized homepage versus a default homepage. If we look at the results of that, there was a 3.3 difference between the apply attempt rate between the returning visitors versus new visitors, whereas there's a 46% difference of apply attempt rates for visits that started at a personalized homepage versus default homepage. I do want to stress that these are not apples to apples comparison, just because of the way how they were the data was compiled. However, so basically what I'm saying is we can't say that personalization itself had 15 times more of the impact to the apply attempt rate. However, what we can say, looking at the difference, so 3.3% and 46%, we do know that the personalization has a much deeper and much significant impact to the candidate journey. And as a result, we're seeing a much, much higher apply attempt rate. While we've been using retargeting technology for a long time to bring back visitors, knowing that their engagement rate would be higher than new visitors, we're actually taking a step further with technology by delivering targeted content based on the data that was captured from previous visits. So it goes back to the technology piece that Shannon was referring to in her earlier slides. So we know that if returning visitors, again, they may have a higher engagement rate, but we can take that even further with serving and delivering that targeted information for the visitors. I think the next question can easily be, where on the website? So we know that now that personalization has a far better reach and a bigger impact on apply attempts, right? But where on the website do you want to personalize and target information for your visitors? It doesn't make sense if you go to your website, it wouldn't make sense to personalize information for all of your pages, right? It's not cost efficient. It doesn't make sense. You're better off creating a whole new website for each job profile in that case, rather than buying a technology that can do that personalization for every single page, right? So what the next few slides are going to be, this is an actual slide that were used for one of the quarterly reports that we had for our major healthcare client. But this is also a standard template that we incorporate for any of our career website client reporting. So we also have a very generic, a good understanding of how the patterns look like across many of our clients. So first of all, I do want to say that when we look at content on the website, we look at two things. And this bar chart is visualizing the question of what are the top 5 most visited content on the website. And as you can see, for this particular client, 92% of the page views went to either of these 3 pages. One is the job search results pages, the second is the job description pages, and then the third is the home pages. Now, if we go to the next question, the way how we look at content, the second question that we ask is, what are the top 5 entry points to the website? In other words, which page did the visitor start from? Where did the visitor start from when they got to the website? And as you can see, 75% of the visits to the website started from either the job description page, home page, or the job search result pages. So the top 3 items are identical to the top 5 visitor content question as well. The ranking may slightly be different. And this is what we see across most, if not all, of our clients, right? Again, the ranking may slightly be different. For example, a lot of our clients will see that the homepage is the leading entry point to the career website. But the fact is that these are the top 3 pages that we'll see for the top 5 visited content pages and the top 5 entry points to the website. So, and because we do this as a template, as a standard template across all of our clients who has career websites with us, we're fairly confident to say that if a client is investing in media based on some sort of media strategy, most likely the bulk of the traffic goes to the job search pages, job description pages, and the homepage. And also the bulk of the traffic, bulk of the visits start from either the job description pages, homepage, or job search result pages. And this is exactly where the opportunities lie when it comes to personalization and targeted information. These are the main pages where because most people are visiting them or because they're entering the website through these pages, this is where you want to start really serving that targeted information, because to Shannon's point in her earlier slides, a lot of the other pages may not be even visited at all. And you want to really utilize the highly visible pages to make sure that you're delivering that relevant information. So back to you, Shannon.
Thank you, Angela. Nope, that was great. So in summary, hopefully those case studies helped bring these concepts to life for you. But again, just to review, we really think that there are 5 keys to impactful candidate experience. And the first is articulating and activating your employer brand and having your story to tell. And then 2, creating that content that tells your story and making sure that you're getting it in front of your target audience in the places where they already are. And that was really what Angela was trying to show you by looking across a bunch of our clients and how they're able to utilize number 3, which is career site personalization, to make sure that all of that content that is created, that you're keeping candidates engaged, you're learning from their patterns on the site, and you're delivering them that information where they already are in the right place as they're trying to make their decisions. And then using analytics to power your decisions, and anywhere that you can, if you've got a CRM, looking at ways to be able to integrate that data so that you've got the integration between the 2 to be able to make a more impactful candidate experience, because you know somebody's status and kind of where they are in their process. And then finally, the 5th is, of course, the importance of incorporating automation for enhancing your experience as a recruiter, anybody who is responsible for acquiring talent for your organization. So hopefully these topics you were able to learn from, and it got you thinking about ways, if you're already leveraging personalization and utilizing data, that hopefully it got you thinking of other ways that you can. And if you're not at all, hopefully this made it a little less daunting and kind of giving you a bit of a playbook of how to approach it. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you for spending 50 minutes of your day with us here so far. And we can go ahead and, with the 5 minutes we've got left, we can go ahead and take some questions.
All right, Shannon and Angela, thank you guys so much for the presentation this afternoon. I think everyone probably really enjoyed the information. We've got about, like Shannon said, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes for questions, so we'll get right to it. First question that we have, guys, comes from Janice, and she wants to know, did employers see a difference in the quality of hires when they switched to utilizing ATS and CRM data?
So this is an interesting question, and I think the short answer is some do. I think the longer answer to the question is that it's difficult when you start getting into quality, meaning how do you assess that quality? And a lot of organizations just do it differently. So you can look at and things like how many quick quits are there, like people that they quit like within 90 days. That's one way of being able to assess maybe that the people that are coming in aren't necessarily the right quality. You can also look at things like, you have your number of applications. How many of those did the recruiters decide were good enough for interviews or people that they wanted to talk to? A lot of that is also anecdotal, though. And so we don't always have, to do the kind of analysis that Angela does, we don't always have that kind of data in a consistent format from our clients to be able to say, yes, absolutely. But anecdotally, we can tell you that we are seeing kind of some shorter times to fill. So the application rates are going up, and the time to fill, in like the example that I'd given you before around the enhanced job descriptions that we had implemented, we are seeing really good numbers in those areas, and that does, the shorter time to fill starts to get to an improvement in terms of the quality that's coming through with those applies. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a little bit complicated because of the inconsistency in data.
All right, great, Shannon. Thanks so much for answering that. Well, so we'll go ahead and take a question from Elena now, and she asks if it is beneficial to house new hire documents on their career site. Would you advise of that? Why or why not?
So, I would say sure, as long as there isn't anything confidential, that somebody has to have signed to their employee handbook in order to be able to see that information, then that is information that can live on your site. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is part of the main navigation for people to be able to find, but just in terms of efficiency, if you've got that information hosted on your site and you are using automated email alerts, right? You could have an automated drip campaign set up that once somebody's status was changed to hired and it was time for them to fill out their new hire paperwork, it could automatically trigger the email. It's got the link in there that lives on your site, right? So you could make that all a very efficient and automated process, which would be great for a candidate. And again, it would take more work off of you or off of your recruiters. So from that perspective, I wouldn't see any reasons, why not to. If there is information that might be helpful for users or for your candidates to see in new hire documents, maybe like benefits information, in that kind of instance, I would make the case that there's probably a better way to display that information. There are probably much more visual and engaging, almost infographic style ways to be able to present like benefits information to someone who's considering applying or somebody who just applied. But just from an efficiency, a process perspective, I think that would be a great idea.
All right, thanks again, Shannon. I think we've got time for one more question this afternoon, so we'll go ahead and take this one from Dr. Christina Agustin. How do we address when there is a high offer drop rate, and what are the quick things to do here?
So if you've got a high offer drop rate, one, you have to get in and kind of do an analysis in terms of finding out or trying to figure out why people are dropping the offer. If you are able to get interview any of the folks who did back out to try to figure out the themes, that is something that I would do. I would also spend a little time doing like an online reputation audit and taking a look at your reviews. So Glassdoor, for example, they have interview reviews as well as just kind of regular employee reviews. I would go through that information and see if there's anything to find in there as well, to see if anybody's talking about why, whether or not they might accept an offer and then, start or continue doing research and they read reviews and maybe they find something alarming and they say, never mind. The other thing that I would want to look at are kind of competitors and knowing whether or not, if you're in a highly competitive space, if you've got competitors out there that are, offering other benefits, higher salary, and are very much kind of targeting a small pool in a really competitive space, they might be targeting people and saying like, hey, we know you have this offer, because the candidate told them they have the offer. We'll make this better. Come work for us and, we'll pay you more. They're just kind of a variety of the things that could be happening, but you can't address it until you understand why. And then at that point, you can put together a plan of how you might be able to attack that.
All right, thanks so much, Shannon. And so we'll go ahead and start to wrap up today. We have reached the bottom of the hour. Folks, don't forget today's webcast has been approved for HR, CI, and SHRM credit. You can view those credit codes for attending today by giving us about 24 hours and then going to your My HCI profile, hovering over that drop-down menu and, visiting My Learning Journey. So we'll give one more big thank you to Symphony Talent, to Shannon, and to Angela. And for all of you guys, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.